So I want to get ahead of it because I'm thinking this
So it's 6 p.m. and I'd like to call the January 9th, 2023 special meeting of the North Kingstown School Committee to order. And I will be moving that we move to recess to executive session pursuant to RIGL 42464, which states any discussion of job performance, character, physical or mental health of a person or persons, provided that such person or persons affected shall be notified advance in writing and advise that they may require that the discussion be held in open meeting pursuant to RIGL 42465A1. The discussion number 2, any investigation proceeding regarding allegations of misconduct, either civil or criminal pursuit, RIGL 42465A4, discussion action, investigation employee A, discussion action, investigation update employee B, and both persons have been notified. Do I have a second? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say nay. Any abstentions? Okay, so we're gonna move to executive session and we're going to go somewhere else so y'all can stay here.
Apologies, it was
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Erin Earl.
Here.
Robert Case.
Here.
Jennifer Hoskins.
Here.
Jennifer Lima. Here. Thomas Bryady.
Here.
Christine LaPierre. Gabriel Anthony.
Here. Jules, we're gonna go to the next item is citizens comment. Do we have the timer or no? If not, we can just use our phone.
I think the timer that we've had has not worked so great. Let's use the phone.
Sounds good.
And I left you the sheet right in
Yep,
front of you.
and so just one more, if anyone else would like to sign up for citizen comment, feel free to do so. We can put the list out, but it looks like we have some names on here, and so we'll start with Pamela.
Pam Panero, 710 Slocum Road, North Kingstown. I am deeply concerned about the current state of the NK schools. I'm hoping there is still time to rectify the situation. In my opinion, we are in desperate need of leadership and stability. If there is a path to rectify the situation between the school committee and the superintendent, I would urge this to be pursued. Dr. Paolucci, although I've not spoken to her, has demonstrated leadership by significantly increasing much-needed communication to families, demonstrating her physical presence in the schools, and presenting clear and professional information in multiple meetings on various topics which I have observed. She now has also documented clear and specific barriers to moving the district forward. I acknowledge that I have one side of the story, but optics matter at this point. In my opinion, the last few school committee meetings have been difficult to watch due to the meeting flow, tension, lack of enthusiasm for committee assignments, and strained discussions. If this current situation is not able to be rectified, then I would hope for a clear response from the school committee as to the efforts made to reconcile, a thorough response to the list of concerns made that, as stated, are very alarming to a parent, and a clear, concise plan to move forward. Our kids need leadership and stability. I recognize many of you are new and there is a learning curve, but you chose to be here. We need you to step up, and our kids need you to step up. I was asked recently, why don't I send my kids to private school? My response was, I believe in public education. I hope you will help me continue to believe in public education. Thank you.
Crystal Simus, 55 Collins Court, North Kingstown. So I come here, as everyone else, frustrated. You had asked us back last year to put our faith in you, to find the right fit, as you so said. And you couldn't find the right fit back in the summer with the old school committee. Fine. You made these poor people come up and have this interview publicly, and yet said they were not fit for this district. We kept an open mind. Come, October, Greg said, we found the right fit. We found, and again, I don't know Dr. Paolucci, don't know her at all. But I put my faith in you that you found who you were looking for as the right fit. So again, we put our faith in you. 2 months later, you're telling us she was not the right fit? So are we to lose faith in you that you are not able to find the right fit? What is the right fit? I don't know. Again, I've never spoken to Dr. Paolucci. I've never had a conversation with her. I've never had exchanges with her. But what I can tell you is that what she brings is what we need. She has expertise. She has experience. She has worked in other districts. To my knowledge, you have not. To my knowledge, you don't know how other districts work. She does. So when she comes in and she has suggestions, listen to her. Because, and I'll be fair, you don't know what you don't know. I get that. If you only know North Kingstown, then you only know North Kingstown. But when you have somebody coming in that has experience and can tell you what you're doing wrong or what is going wrong in this district, she can help you. And it is a slap in the face to her and to us for believing in you. So, again, please try to figure out what it is that's going on. But the way that it's working, it's not working. The teachers deserve leadership. The students deserve leadership. They deserve better. Their kids, my kids, deserve better. They deserve someone who's going to help them, to guide them. Again, I don't know Dr. Paolucci. All I do know is what I've heard, and I've heard very good things about her. I did my due diligence. Do yours.
Good evening. My name is Lauren Brothers, and I live at 20 Deck Street, Jamestown, Rhode Island. I'm a biology, chemistry, and general science teacher at North Kingstown High School, as well as the mother of 2 young children who will likely graduate from there. My children, along with the other amazing students of our district, are the most significant reasons why the teachers and most building administrators are still here, maintaining the excellence of our schools. For the past few years, which have been the most difficult and demoralizing years this district has ever faced, teachers have been begging for better leadership. I was part of the teacher focus group for the previous superintendent search and was extremely disappointed when Mr. Cowart was not chosen. Of course, the process was the opposite of transparent and most likely deterred many qualified candidates from applying to any of the several openings that this district continues to have. The recent resignation of Dr. Paolucci was another gut punch that we do not deserve, especially at the start of teacher contract negotiations. Teachers like her and appreciate her communication and support, which is something that the previous superintendents did not provide, even at great times of need. Reading her list of concerns was not surprising, but still horrifying, and I am happy she shared it. Some of the newer school committee members may not be fully aware of the nonsense teachers dealt with regarding the so-called negotiations last year, but we will not tolerate it again. Teachers have been told that the school committee intends to continue with contract negotiations even without Dr. Paolucci, and we will hold you accountable for that. Personal differences, agendas, egos need to be put aside. Professionalism and trusting relationships must be prioritized if we want to make any positive progress. We need to be allowed to heal. I suggest that the school committee members carefully consider their actual experiences within K-12 public education, recognize the current needs of the district, respect those with more experience and knowledge of the happenings within the schools. Open and honest conversations that include listening to educators, administrators, students, and their families need to happen. Enough with the disappointing surprises and tight-lipped approaches to everything. This is the 3rd time in 7 months that I have spoken at these meetings. The reason I speak publicly is because I do not trust that my words will be fully acknowledged if I do not speak on the record with witnesses. Please give us reasons to regain your trust with actions, not empty words. Thank you.
Megan?
Megan Riley, 15 Eden Court, North Kingstown. I actually wasn't planning on speaking. I don't really have a lot more to say besides what everyone else already very articulately stated. I would, however, like to put a positive spin on this in relation to Dr. Paolucci. I have been reading a lot from people in town. I've been seeing a lot of comments talking about how she is leaving us and she didn't give it any effort and she has failed us. But what I have seen was anything but a failure, and having been extensively researching the district, the inner workings of the district for a while now, and I think a lot of people know that that is true, I actually see the most transparency I've ever seen from this district as a result of the sunlight that Dr. Paolucci has shown on our district. For example, We now have newsletters going out monthly. I'm a little bit nervous to think that as soon as she leaves, those newsletters will not happen. We have a district improvement team that may or may not happen, but that was Dr. Paolucci's suggestion. I hope that continues to move forward whether or not she is with us. We have open communication. I haven't had to send in an APRA in quite a while because Dr. Paolucci has said to me, if you have questions, please come to me first and I will try to do my best to answer them. And she has. The same cannot be said for several emails I'm still waiting on from school committee members' responses. I would like to say that Dr. Paolucci has gone into the school buildings, which is something I had suggested before she started working here. I believe it was at a school committee meeting back in October, maybe. She has gone around, she has talked to teachers, she had talked to students, and sometimes several times in the same building. And I, now sub in the district, I have heard directly from those teachers what a breath of fresh air she is. I have seen that she has gone to an asset management commission meeting last week in town and has gotten high praise from her presentation that she gave, that she had to put together, I assume, all by herself because the actual material wasn't there when it should have been. I know a lot went on beforehand, and I'm not here to talk about what we all know has happened beforehand in this district. I want to tell you that Dr. Paolucci, I believe, is our best path forward, and we looked a gift horse in the mouth.
30 seconds.
And I truly believe that ego had a lot to do with that, and perhaps bad advice. So I will hope that going forward, we check our egos and just get back to the basics, because it's all about the children, the families, the communities, and people who might want to move into this town. Let's turn this around and let's do it starting tonight. And Dr. Paolucci, if you do leave, I'm sorry, but I don't blame you. Your list, your 3-page letter was exactly what I have found over the last year, and you're not wrong. Thank you.
That's all we have for citizen comments. Any other folks want to sign up? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to, oh, I'm so sorry.
I apologize.
No worries.
I
No,
just
it's-
arrived
Here you go.
from Massachusetts,
No, it's fine.
babysitting, so.
No worries.
It's a long road. All your students drive by every day. Thank you. My name is James Murphy. I live on Annaquatucket Road, North Kingstown. The first thing I want to do, I reviewed the 3-page district concerns memo of Dr. Paolucci, and having served on a number of boards and commissions, including the Board of Trustees at an all-girls high school here in Rhode Island, I was struck by some things. And the first thing I wanted to do was thank each and every one of you for committing yourself to the school committee. I don't know any of you, I don't think, except maybe one who's another attorney. I'm a retired lawyer. It's a lot of work, and it's a lot of conflict at times with egos, as the last speaker mentioned. But what I was concerned about was the process of governance that seems to be hindering the school committee and its operation as a school committee, which is an operation of governance, of oversight and direction to the administrators of the school system, from the superintendent down through the principals and then to the teachers in the schools. It's governance. It's not day-to-day direction. It's not infighting. It's not political. It shouldn't be. You're all Democrats, so it shouldn't be a problem there. And I just wanted to urge you as you go forward. I'm not going to take sides in this thing, but I am concerned that the process isn't working. If, in fact, emails are sent out to set out a meeting, time and place, and they're not being responded to, and it only takes one person not to respond to gum up the system, be responsive. This is a business that you've engaged in, the business of educating our children. And for people like me who educated 6 children through this school system since we moved here in 1979, and now I'm just a retired guy who lives in the district and concerned about my property values, which are directly influenced by the quality of the schools, and they are excellent schools. They have been excellent schools. Keep it that way. If someone wants to set up an agenda, get the darn agenda prepared in advance. It's a business process. It's not rocket science. Even I, as the chairman of a board of that girls' school, could figure it out, and it can be done. And I just ask you to work together, work wisely. If you need, a little education on Robert's Rules of Order and the administration of business at a board level or a committee level, do that. And I thank you, Ms. Paolucci, for the work you've done, and I thank all of you for the work I hope you all will do. As you can tell, people are watching. They're watching our town, they're watching our schools, and they're watching you as well. Thank you.
Any other citizens' comments? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to item 3, discussion action for investigation update of employee A. And so we will go, do we have a motion for this item?
So moved.
Second.
And so the discussion occurred in executive session regarding employee A, per what we read earlier. And so we will be going directly to the vote. And so so for basically closing the investigation for employee A, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Okay. And then the next item is the discussion action, read the interim superintendent position resignation and appointment. Do I have a motion on this? Okay. Second?
Second.
Okay, discussion?
I just have a statement I'd like to read.
Mhm.
I'm so disheartened that this is happening. This committee needs to really reflect on why the district continues to lose top administrators. I do believe that we chose the right person for this district. Dr. Paolucci has worked tirelessly to help NK School Department with her leadership and move the district forward in a positive way to help stabilize our district. In 8 short weeks that she has been part of our district, she has embedded herself into our community, into our schools, and into our classrooms. She partnered with all the schools to make sure that their needs are heard with respect to the budget. She has met with town administrators, our unions, and RIDE. She has made a strong effort to work with all our subcommittees so that they can continue to do the hard work that is needed for our district. She encompasses an unbelievable amount of knowledge that would have set our district up for success, and success for the superintendent that would have followed her. She has done this with open and ongoing communication, transparency, and accountability. The administration, teachers, and clerical staff, as well as the public, believe she is the right fit for the job. I don't know what's going to happen next, but I would like to request that this committee not accept her resignation and ask Dr. Paolucci what it would take to make the environment workable so that she could stay and continue her work as we complete our intended search for a permanent superintendent.
Thank you. Other discussion?
I have some questions. I'll make a preliminary statement. I have met Dr. Paolucci approximately 5 times since I was elected. First was 2 days after the election. The same day she met with one of the speakers who's just recently addressed us here. I've met her during a tour of our school system. I wanted to get all of them in, but it's pretty hard to do that in one day. And we spent half a day. Dr. Earl was with us, and we visited half the schools in the community, and it was quite an eye-opener. I've also attended one meeting where we set ground rules with NEA NK about how we were going to go forward with negotiations. And I really looked forward to that meeting. I think it was relatively productive. It was somewhat brief, but it was a good meeting. And I was encouraged. I can remember very distinctly a member of the negotiation team for NEA saying that they felt a sense of relief that people were being friendly and cordial and that we were going to work together to try to find a common resolution here. Those are all positive things. But I also knew that Dr. Paolucci was unhappy. And I knew that she was unhappy with the way things have been going in this, with her relationship with the school committee. It's very difficult for me to understand that. I did speak to Dr. Earl. I am going to say something here because Mr. Murphy, a gentleman who I have great respect for, asked whether there was something wrong with the system that makes it difficult to communicate and for all of us to communicate together. And the fact is, I know that the Open Meetings Act was well-intentioned. And it's there for a purpose, to provide transparency to members of this community. Here's the reality. It's virtually impossible to communicate with members of the school committee unless we are all together. You can talk to one person. You can't talk to other people because the statute prohibits that. If you don't comply with that statute, you can get a complaint, be investigated by the Attorney General's office, and potentially whatever action is taken can be null and void. Frankly, it's ridiculous because you can go back and still take the action in a later meeting, but that's how it works. And that's the system that we have. The General Assembly passed this statute, and here we are. I want you to know that despite those 5 meetings, all of which occurred before Christmas, I was aware that there was unhappiness and there was disagreement. And as recently as Friday morning, I was still trying to persuade Dr. Paolucci to reconsider, notwithstanding her concerns and her complaints. But then all of this, frankly, blew up in the media. And I'm aware because I've spoken with teachers, I've communicated with a school clerk and a school nurse, and I understand how devastated they are because for the first time they felt that there was a positive relationship with a school superintendent. That's all one side of this. I know there's another side. And in fairness, I know that Dr. Earl and Vice Chair Case have had meetings with Dr. Paolucci that I was not privy to and couldn't be privy to because of the Open Meetings Law. I also know that I wanted to meet with Dr. Paolucci in private with this entire committee. Dr. Paolucci, as is her right under the state of Rhode Island's executive session laws, has chosen that all of this discussion take place in public. I think that's unfortunate. I think it's normal and standard. Well, you know what? I'm telling you what I think, and this is my opinion. I think that when you're dealing with a personnel issue, sometimes it helps to have a private conversation, and you can't do it with all 5 of us present. And I think that's tremendously unfortunate. Dr. Paolucci chose to exercise her right to have this in open session. I respect that, and I'm not going to challenge it. I do have a couple of questions, and I have something more to say. I want to know if, Madam Chair, can you elaborate from your perspective as what happened here and what it is that we can do to fix this and make it better?
Yeah, thank you, Tom. And so, as you know, on January 4th, we did receive a letter of resignation from Dr. Paolucci, and that was after, in my opinion, many attempts to try to figure out ways over the past 4 weeks since we were sworn in to figure out a working relationship between the school committee and the interim superintendent. And we obviously have a resignation on the table. Like, it's not a question of performance or anything like that. I think that some of the things that the community members said are very valid, and we were very grateful for anyone that is willing to come in and work with our district as we're trying to rebuild the administration. I believe that we should accept the resignation as we want a leader that wants to be here and work with the school committee and the administration and the teachers. I know Dr. Paolucci has been working very hard and made great strides in very specific areas, and I am very frustrated and disappointed to think of some of the disruptions in those areas. But as far as long-term and working through making sure that we're following procedures, making sure that we're making progress in the district that so needs it, I do support accepting the resignation tonight and moving forward with a plan. As far as what the next steps would be, is we do have an assistant superintendent, and with a vacancy in a superintendent, if we were to accept the resignation, that role would be filled by Kathy Sapala at this point. And so I want to be very cognizant of the fact that we are in an open meeting, and I very much respect educators. Everyone knows my mom's a teacher for over 20 years, and my children in their schools, and I don't want to go through a person who has worked in the schools for over 30 years, line by line, as far as what wasn't working or what was working, but we most certainly know that there was some strife there, and I am disappointed and hope that we can move forward as a committee and as a district.
I'd like to respond to that. I appreciate what you've said, and you know that I have enormous respect for you. I've gotten to know you very well over the last 6 months. I know you're smart, I know you care about this community, and I know that your intention is to move forward in the best way possible. But I think the people in this room and this community needs to have some context and appreciation for what the nature of this disagreement is all about.
You have appointed Kathy Sapala as taking that position role. She has something she would like to say.
No, there's no, that's,
Is she allowed to?
that's not what I said.
Yeah, I mean, right now, there's no motion on the table necessarily, so.
And I just would like to interject you for a second. This isn't a disagreement. Like Chair Earl said, we have a resignation on the table. She's already tendered her resignation. So I don't think, and I agree with the chair, I don't think that this is the place. I agree 100% that the district and the people in this community are entitled to an answer and some type of explanation regarding the concerns that have been raised. I don't dispute that, but I don't believe it's in anybody's best interest to go tit for tat, line by line.
I'm not asking for tit for tat. I'm asking for a description of what is the disagreement. Dr. Paolucci, no one put a gun to Dr. Paolucci's head and said, you must join the North Kingstown School Department. You must serve as superintendent. 4 or 5 months ago, before I was elected to this office, this committee, and Dr. Earl was not here, and neither was I, we were both running and campaigning at that point, but this committee offered a position to Dr. Paolucci, and she accepted. And she made a commitment to this community, and that commitment was, I'm going to stay here for the next 6 months, next 8 months, until the end of this school year. I will work with you. And I know when I accept this job that I don't know exactly who's going to be on that committee. But it doesn't matter. I'm going to make this commitment. I'm going to work with them. I am committed to the community of North Kingstown, Rhode Island. And now, 6 weeks later, and I have not had the opportunity to speak with Dr. Paolucci at all since before Christmas. Dr. Paolucci tendered her resignation, and the next day released a statement to the media. She has every right to do that. I'm a big believer in the First Amendment. But I think this community deserves to have an answer as to what the nature of the disagreement was about. I'm not trying to embarrass anyone. I am certainly not trying to embarrass Dr. Paolucci. But I'm extremely disappointed in how this came about. And I think that this community is owed an explanation about that. I understand, Dr. Earl, that this is not entirely of your doing. I know that none of us sought this resignation. And several of us, myself included, tried to get Dr. Paolucci to reconsider and haven't had the opportunity to do that. But I think that things kind of blew up on Friday morning when this went into the media. And I need to know, as an official, I think the people that elected me are entitled to know what exactly happened here. So may I have a response, please? And Mr. Case, if you wanted to weigh in on this, I know you've been present at some of these meetings. I think this community needs to hear this.
I also don't think that it benefits anybody to drag someone through the mud. But what I will say is this. This past week was not the first attempt. I thought there were several olive branches extended trying to find a way to work together. I was hopeful in a meeting that was called last week that we could hash out any differences internally, that we could find a way to work together. And the meeting started very well. And then it went downhill from there. There were issues before that.
But we're talking about a superintendent who's been successful in 4 other districts. We're talking someone who comes with a lot of knowledge. If she's saying that for whatever reason her hands are tied or that the issues that she wrote in the letter, we are here for, like you said, governance. We are here to make sure things are running and watch over things, but we are not here to insert ourselves in the day-to-day operations of the district.
Rob, I don't want to put you on the spot.
Hold
Go
on,
ahead.
stay in order, and if you want to speak, raise, and I'll call on books as needed.
No, what I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt, there was no attempt at trying to insert anything into the day-to-day operations of this district. That's not what this revolved around. For me personally, I think that there were some issues with current policies as they stand in the district and an unwillingness to follow those policies.
And I think you need to be clear here. I know this is difficult, all right? And I know neither one of you enjoy being in this position. And I'm sure Dr. Paolucci's not having the time of her life tonight either. We need to know about this. Who is it who was resistant to following policy within this community? I think you better be careful because you don't know what the answer's going to be. Go ahead.
No. I will just say that these are things that it wasn't one specific policy that wasn't
I'm asking about who was resistant to following
please let
policy.
Rob speak.
Sorry.
No. I would say, in my opinion, and in attending the meetings and seeing it, it was Dr. Paolucci that did not want to follow the policies as they currently stand. Some of the policies, not all of the policies, but some of the policies. I thought that there were some transparency issues that could have been could have happened differently as far as financial matters that I thought were more important. I think that there was an unwillingness to present some of those financial matters, and that's things that built up over time in a very short period of time.
Respectfully, Mr. Case, who was it that was resistant to sharing that information?
To sharing the financial information?
Yes.
I think it was Dr. Paolucci, only because she didn't think that it needed to be. It didn't need to be done that way. It didn't need to be done a certain way that was according to the policies of the committee.
Respectfully, Dr. Earl, is that do you agree with
Yes.
what Mr. Case has said?
Yeah, I think, and for me, Tom, as you know, I very much was looking forward to working. I was very excited, actually, and very frustrated and very disappointed. It is a very delicate time in the school district right now with everything that's gone over the past few years. And I think the most important thing is understanding that that is where this district is. And there's a lot of healing and a lot of things that need to happen to move forward. But one of those things, in my opinion, that needs to be done is that the policies as written right now need to be looked at. And there are some that I agree with Dr. Paolucci, should be reviewed, and we are currently trying to figure out. I'll give an update at our meeting tomorrow, exactly the formation and structure that our past committees have set for the policy committee so that we can look at some of these policies, but currently as they stand, they need to be followed. And so, as I said, I really, truly value Dr. Paolucci's contributions to our district and to the state of Rhode Island and the students. I am not going to say very specifics, but that was one of my biggest concerns and one of the reasons that I think we should accept the resignation, because I want to make sure that we're protecting this district and protecting the students, and also making sure that the administrators and teachers are getting their needs met.
just in line with that, I have no doubt that she has been successful in her other districts, but I also don't think that she's ever served in a district that's been under the microscope the way that North Kingston has. There's been a lot of criticism, a lot of discussion about the fact that previous school committees and previous administrations have been very hands-off and have not paid close enough attention. And I think 2 years down the line, maybe even a year down the line, 6 months down the line, it might be okay to do things a certain way, but right now I think there cannot be enough attention to detail and enough oversight from the school committee and from the superintendent to ensure that everything is being done exactly by the book.
Other discussion?
Can I add anything? Yes, please. First of all, I just have to respond to the idea about transparency. At the end of every week, I provide the school committee with an email, and I spend my time on a Saturday, every Saturday, writing it about this long, of every meeting that was attended, every issue I uncovered, everything I will be doing the following week, every week. My communication this way has always been open. The other way, it is not true. I sounded the alarm about issues I saw with financial procedures, how the budget was done, where we stood even in preparing for the final budget on, week 2 perhaps. I've been sounding the alarm every week about my concerns about the budget. I have not held anything back. In fact, when the press came to me and said, "Why are you resigning?" that part, my concern for where we are with finance in this district, had to be one of those things that I outlined in my letter of concern. I am extremely concerned with what it is and how things have been rolled over without really a look at. I was used to doing a line by line. You have to scrutinize every single line. We are trying to straighten out right now, for example, the personnel and aligning the personnel with their correct budget line. We had some people who were budgeted in an area that's for virtual instruction. Do we do virtual instruction this year? No. So I've been working hard to try to get it on track. We had a new finance director here who didn't know the financial software. So that's a lot. It's a lot of work, even if you have experience. So we were a bit behind on a lot of things because of that struggle with the financial software, and also because things weren't done exactly like how they are normally done in places. It's hard to just walk in and try to figure out a financial system when it's not kind of what's expected. That person quit, I know right before me, was convinced to stay on and then quit again finally. So we have no finance director. So I am concerned. And I have expressed this concern. I expressed it in a 4-page memo in December. I didn't get any response. And I know the school committee can't talk to each other, but you can't individually call me up and say, "How's it going?" Like, there's no relationship building. There's no partnership, and instead it feels very adversarial, and it's not a good place to be. So this budget issue, please, is not how it has been described. It's been as transparent as possible. In fact, if anything, what I don't understand is some of the things the school committee does get involved in, where the important things they don't get involved in. And I'm not, you know what, I wasn't standing here to sit here and criticize. These are people who are donating a whole lot of time for very little money. And, you know, their hearts are in the right place, but I have some experience. I could help bring this district to a better place. I have had very good success in revising policy books. They need to be up to date. If they're so out of date that you can't they don't make sense according to current operations, it's very, very difficult. Policy work is the most important thing a school committee can do, because if you have do our work in absence of policy. What ends up happening when we do our work in absence of policy is then individual members will say, well, I want it done this way, I want it done that way. If you have a policy, you do it the way the policy reads. I've been trying to get a policy committee meeting date since we had subcommittee members identified. And, you know, the olive branch has not been sent over my way. I've had the assistant superintendent and I met. I had my resignation letter ready, and I said, if there's 1 inch, if there's even 1 inch of helping me to be more of a partner with me instead of an adversary, I will not take that letter out. There was not 1 inch that was taken. And that's it really is a shame, because frankly, I love the work. I'm a problem solver. Don't worry about it. You have problems here. I think you all know that, right? Yeah. Okay, so there's problems here. That's okay. Let's not to forget about the past. You always remember the past because you don't want to repeat the history. But let's work together on those problems. I feel like it's like, okay, it's your problem. We're not going to help you with that, but then later on we're going to bring you forward and thrash you if everything's not fixed automatically. I can't fix it by myself. I need a partner in that. And I have to say on record, thank you to the Smithfield School Committee, because they were partners with me. We got a lot done. Every elementary school building in that district was renovated. Policy book, complete. Budgets, complete. A relationship with the town that was a positive, strong relationship. That's what we can accomplish here, but we have to be partners. And I came prepared today to talk about how can we make it work. Like, let's, you know, we're not going to go tit for tat. What's the expression? I don't know what the expression is, but we're not going to go there. Who has said what was done. But we have to have agenda setting meetings, for example, that it's a joint effort, not the work of the committee is not something done to the superintendent. It's something done with the superintendent. And unless that can happen, I can't be successful here. And I'm going to tell you something. I'm used to being successful. I don't think I could take it if I'm not. So I'm not going to be here and not do the work if I don't think I can be successful. And the conditions have to change in order for that to happen. A lot of those things I outlined in a memo because I wasn't sure if I was going to get a chance to really communicate that. And in communicating that, it's really difficult, and same thing within doing the work of the district, it's really difficult not to point the finger at individual people and say, this needs to be different with this one, or that should have been done like that differently in finance, and that should have been done differently when somebody else was in the superintendency. We don't need to go there. We need to look at what is the path forward. I'm not going to accomplish everything. I'm not going to do every decision that's going to make everybody happy here. But I will tell you, I will do my best. But I cannot do it without a partnership, and that's what I'm looking for.
Dr. Paolucci, did you not choose to resign?
I did choose to resign.
Did you not do that without communicating with all of the members of this committee directly before you made that decision?
No, I communicated with the chair and vice chair.
I'm asking you another question. I'm asking you whether you communicated.
Tom.
No, I think this is fair. Did you arrange to meet with the members of this committee before you prepared your resignation letter?
No, because I made no headway with the chair. I'm used to working with the chair and vice chair on those big things.
Well, a moment ago, I think I heard you say that you wanted to work with the committee.
It's not a courtroom.
Yeah, Tom.
No, it's not. But
No, and I
think we
appreciate
want answers.
the conversation, and I wanted to give Dr. Paolucci a chance to speak. Dr. Paolucci, with all due respect, I disagree with your recollection of our conversation of that meeting. We many times, I really very much offered opportunity, resources, and support for the work that we were trying to do here. And although I do not disagree that you have done wonderful things in certain areas, I have massive concerns in other areas, and I really do respect you as a professional. I know that the public would like details. I am not that type of professional. but there is a resignation on the table, and I have to move that, I would like to move officially that the North Kingstown School Committee accept the resignation effective immediately.
I'll second that.
Effective immediately?
Yep, we can have a discussion, but yes. It's,
So they're hiding something.
Of course.
Yes, they're absolutely hiding something.
excuse me.
Y'all?
Yes.
I'll second that, and I'll second that because of concerns over the way that this has been handled up until this point. There can be a lot of damage done with a very toxic working relationship over the next whatever days.
Other discussions?
I would like to say that despite what the toxicity is and what's been happening, Dr. Paolucci has not missed a beat. She has been to every meeting. She continues to do everything that she needs to do to move this district forward. Immediately, as unacceptable.
Yeah. The resignation letter stated February 1st. I believe it needs to be immediate, and the reason that I feel that way is I am highly concerned about the work getting done. I'm very much, I believe that we need to move forward, and although Dr. Paolucci has been doing wonderful things.
So when do you plan on having
Wait,
her?
hold on please, Jen, sorry. Jenny, and we need to move forward, and I also feel as though, things like, although Dr. Paolucci talked about the budget and different things, we are not following timelines that we need to do as far as different things that need to be submitted, et cetera. And I'm also very concerned about the information that was shared with the press before being shared with the district or the administration. There were some very significant accusations there, and I also was still hoping to have resolution when we called this meeting on Monday, but that makes me extremely concerned about that because that affects not only the welfare of our students, but staff and administration as well, and that is why I am moving.
Staff here asking for her to stay. We have staff letters and phone calls asking, begging for her to stay.
Yeah.
That she is finally like a gleam of light in this district.
I completely understand.
You were asking us to vote for her. Who do you plan on replacing her with?
So as per the way that the structure of the school committee is, the interim superintendent would fill the superintendent's role until it's filled.
I would like Kathy Sapala to speak at this point. She would like to speak at this point.
Yeah.
No. What? Yes, Rob?
I will just say that in the meeting that was held last week, though the letter does say February 1st, Dr. Paolucci asked the attorney to find an earlier date. She asked for that, and that's what we are giving her. And Andrew can confirm that if my recollection is off,
Kathy
but that was
Sapala
my...
is at those meetings as well, so I am asking her to speak.
It's your call, Madam Chair.
You know, if you'd like to, Kathy, you may, but I don't feel it's appropriate. But. That is not right.
That's for the stream. If you speak into it, that's for the people who are watching.
And I will speak into it. So it is not my place to speak on the relationship between the chair and the superintendent. I attended one meeting with the chair and the assistant and the superintendent and the vice chair. My work in that meeting was to make every effort to bring them together. And Mr. Case is shaking his head, and the attorney was there as well. My efforts were for the North Kingstown School Department and the future of that department and the students and the teachers and the administrators who work here. So I will say that I was at that meeting, and it was not a successful meeting. I was not able to achieve what I hoped to be able to achieve, which was the conversation about a collaborative working relationship. We talked a lot about the needs of the district. We did. And that was a positive part of the meeting. And it did start positively, and it did end when parties came to an impasse and couldn't further discuss. I also made a second attempt because I could not say that I was going to give up on this district. And my second attempt was to meet with the chair and vice chair, which I also could do properly according to open meeting laws, to say what is the plan moving forward and what can we do? What can we do for the North Kingstown School Department? So just so that you all know, I have been here since April as your interim assistant superintendent, the only position I actually want. I have been a superintendent for 14 years. I was the Jamestown superintendent for 4 years and the Narragansett superintendent for 10 years. I'm practically 70 years old. I've been retired for 6 years. I've told everybody I'm here for the reasons that I lived here as a resident for 10 years in the 90s. My daughter's a graduate of North Kingstown High School. My son attended Stony Lane and DMS. He did private high school. That was the choice of our family at the time. But I loved living here and have relatives who live here, and my grandchildren live here and attend Hamilton School with their principal right here. I'm really here for the improvement of the school department, to be that liaison between the teachers, the principals, and the work that has to get done. I love the work of assistant superintendent. It has a huge body of work that is not the work of the superintendent. So my efforts have always been to make this work, to make it work. And I did come to a point that I felt frustrated that it was not working on Friday. I absolutely agree that in the absence of a superintendent, you must have a superintendent in your district. It's regulation, it's law. And every assistant superintendent in the state of Rhode Island knows that upon the illness, unfortunate loss of a superintendent, that they become the superintendent. They do. And I have agreed. I did answer that question to, in that Thursday evening meeting to your chair and vice chair. Yes, I would take that job. I would be your superintendent until another interim was chosen. That was very important to me. I do not wish to be the superintendent. I will even say that I may not have the skill set to be the superintendent right at this point in time. My skill set is definitely in terms of working on curriculum, working on school improvement, working on teacher evaluation, grants. I'll go on and on and on. To be a partner and an assistant working on the budget. I know the staffs of your schools right now. I really know them well. But as Dr. Paolucci describes, the budget is a huge body of work. And having me be I will not be an interim superintendent. I'm not going to be appointed as an interim superintendent. I'm not going to be an interim superintendent. I will fulfill the safety and regulations and requirements of this district on a day-to-day basis. I will be the administrative go-to. I will answer questions. I will answer that phone, but I'll keep on doing my other work. And I won't do it very well because I'll have a lot of other things to do. But I will do that because you must have a superintendent. I absolutely agree to that. But it is my expectation that in the 25 days that I have left here, because there are pension rules about how old retirees can work, and I have hit pretty close to that 90 days of my second 90 days. I've already done 90 days in my first few months here from April to August, and I'm on my second 90. And those 25 days are soon to come. And in my 25 days, I will work very hard on the projects that I've been working on. I will continue to make sure that the most important requirements are done, but I am not the person who is going to do the budget alone. I will work with the people here. There's no question. I will work with the controllers. We've got a good plan, but I'm putting a piece to this. I'm not taking that full responsibility, and I've expressed that to the chair and vice chair, and I just want everyone to know this is not this person saying, I'm going to be your superintendent. Forget about Dr. Paolucci. That is not it at all. I hope you sincerely hear that I'll fulfill that responsibility, but don't expect the work of a superintendent to be done by me in this period of time. I still will be the interim assistant superintendent for the 25 days that I am here. And I will do that to the best of my ability, absolutely positively. But there does need to be a plan for what would happen for this district moving forward. And so that is what I want to say. Judy and I have a history. She was my assistant superintendent the day I walked into the Narragansett schools in 2006. So just do the math. It was a long time ago. And she was that assistant superintendent for 2 years. We worked really hard and really well, and it was time for her to fly and be a superintendent. And we also couldn't afford an assistant superintendent at that point in time in a small district, so I took on both roles. And that's the honest truth. Our paths have not crossed in these many years. I've been retired for 6 years, but I did give the recommendation to the school committee to appoint her. I'll say again, My goals are for the school department, for the teachers, the students. I have a role there. I will fill it for you, but it will not be the same work that Dr. Paolucci has been doing, and I think you understand that. But I also want everyone here to understand that as well. Okay, there will be a limit to what I will be doing. It will be meeting the requirement and trying to get all the work done that I have not yet finished in 25 days. So that's the truth of the situation, and I wish that that the situation were different. I absolutely do, and I think everybody else does as well. So.
I have a question for Dr. Cipolla, if I might.
It's Mrs. Cipolla, please. I have 2 doctors in the house, my family. Actually, 4. My children and their spouses all have their PhDs, not me.
Set out mistaken but totally heartfelt respect. Dr. Paolucci issued a statement last week. I don't believe the statement was shared directly with the school committee, but it reads, as I understand it, unfortunately, the school committee has not created the right conditions for my success. And despite several attempts of the interim superintendent and I to steer the chair in the right direction, I don't see change in the near future. Without such change, I cannot succeed. She makes a specific reference to the chair. And the implication of this statement is several attempts of the superintendent, the assistant superintendent, and I to steer the chair in the right direction. I've asked you about this before. Is this statement accurate?
I met with the chair and the vice chair last Wednesday evening. That was an attempt to work together. I would have used the words to work together. I did, and I met with the chair and the vice chair by myself the next night. Those are the only 2 times that I was involved in this work.
Is it fair to Dr. Earl? Hang on, please, hear me out. Is it fair to Dr. Earl to make that characterization that you agree with what Dr. Paolucci was trying to do that night? I think it's very important for the members of this room to hear whether or not you agree with what Dr. Paolucci asserted here in a public statement about an elected official. Is it accurate?
I can only answer that the part about me. Was I involved on 2 occasions with Dr. Paolucci to make an effort to steer the trip?
The statement was not accurate.
It's not exactly accurate.
Tom, we're not.
I have nothing further. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. Thank you so much for your statement. No, of course not. Of course, no. I just want to say, it's as far as further discussion, as we have been in this role for 1 month, the amount of challenges that this district has are unbelievable. And if there was anything I could possibly do to try to prevent us from being here in this moment, I would have.
I'm asking you to think about what you can do at this moment, at least for 60 days. An interim superintendent isn't just going to show up.
No, I understand.
In 25 days, we have a budget to do. We have grants that have to be written. We have money that we're going to lose that's on the table to build a new middle school. You can't just snap your fingers and say immediately, you can't do that for the good of the district.
No, I completely understand. It is at this point that I do not have confidence anymore in working with the interim superintendent that we are getting the information that we need.
But everybody else feels that they are getting information that they need. We get a 3-page email every week on what she did, what's going on, what her concerns are. It blows my mind that you think that she's hiding something.
Respectfully, that email does not translate to actual work being done.
You know what? I'm going to make this easy for everyone. I cannot stay. This is dangerous for me to say. I've already been accused of not sharing finances. I've shared my concern about finance from day 1. But when I walk away, I do not believe. I do not believe I will not be blamed for the past problems in the district.
All those in favor of vote. Any discussion? Calling the vote.
I have something I want to say.
Nope. We have a motion to call the vote, and we have second on that, and so.
Thank you,
all those in
everyone.
favor, call the vote. All those in favor, calling vote. Aye. All those opposed, to calling vote.
She left, it's over.
Any abstentions?
I'm going to abstain, but I have something I want to say.
Nope, there's, the discussion is over, so. Jen made the motion to call the vote, and then the second was Mr. Case. Yep. And then 3 affirmative, 1 abstention, and Mr. Brody, did you have a vote?
I'm not abstaining.
No, she.
Oh, no, I know, I'm sorry, excuse me, 1 objection.
I'm going to abstain from the motion.
Okay,
Call
and
the
so
vote.
that carries, and so we're calling the vote, and so all of those in favor of accepting the superintendent's resignation effective immediately, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Opposed.
And abstentions.
Reluctantly, I'm going to vote aye. And I think the reason is very clear.
Nope, there's no more discussion, Tom, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
And so, moving on, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Eric.
I'm sorry.
No votes taken in executive session, a motion
Oh,
sealed.
yes, sorry, excuse me. So, wanted to say that there are no votes were taken in executive session, and we didn't need a motion to seal, is that what you're saying?
We need a motion to seal the minutes from executive session.
Can I get it? I'll move.
All right.
Second.
Mr. Lima, second from Mr. Case. All those in favor of sealing the? Jenny? Okay. All those opposed? Okay, abstentions. Jules, did you get that? Okay, and then, I need a motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn. Okay, Jen, second. Mr. Case, all those in favor?